record. Is it recording? Is it? Okay, it says recording. Okay. Um.
That
All
should
right.
that's the intro.
That was intro, guys. But hello guys. This is Humphrey,
Not Alec.
and welcome back to our overdue second podcast. Um, last couple of weeks has been pretty busy. School's kept kind of wrapping up. So, but hey, we're finally
couple
here.
weeks, couple months.
Yeah. So yeah, but tonight we wanna start something that we want to share with you guys. And you can expect this to be the kind of format for the future podcast, is because Gear, as you know, it is a Christian community that we want to have Jesus be the focal point of everything we do. So every podcast we want to try to start with something that God has been teaching us personally, or just teaching us in general, or some Bible verses that kind of stood out to us. So how do you like that, Alec?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, just something that stands out really.
Cool. Yeah, and then if you guys have something that God has been working in your life, and feel free to comment in the upcoming podcast post. So by the time you see this, you will probably see the post on Instagram or Facebook. So looking forward to read some of the comments. But Alec, you want to kick off something that God's been teaching you lately?
Sure. So something that has kind of been brought to my attention a lot the last, really, especially the last couple of weeks, confidence and being confident in myself and whatever plan that God has,
Mm-hmm.
There have been a couple of times I've been like, am I really, like in the right place, doing the right things?
Yeah, self-doubt.
And and for me personally, it's a very big issue of mine.
Yeah.
So that is something that I feel like I've kind of been called to look at, and I feel like I've definitely kind of made strides. So
Okay.
which is good. And
Okay.
yeah, so
yeah, that's good, because confidence sometimes, well, I know Alec personally. He's my best friend, so I know exactly what he's going through, and I can totally relate to that, and that can happen to anyone in your life. So for me, I think so recently I just finished this book, this invisible book. Jeez, this background is screwing up. But the name of the book is called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, and I highly recommend it for anyone who want to further grow their walk with Jesus. So one thing that I have learned so much from this book, but one thing that really stood out to me is he lists like 8 symptoms of what it looks like for immature Christians. So one of them was judging other people's spiritual journey, and that one stood out to me the most, is because that for me, in the past 3 years, almost 3.5 years, that God has given me an opportunity to lead Bible studies, or just be the leadership position in various Christian organizations. And then as a leader, I love my friends who are joining me in my Bible study. I have a heart to care for them, but sometimes I do feel like I'm do get a little upset. I'm judging them because I know the struggles or anything that's going through their life, and then I have gone through personally, and then I knew what it worked for me. So I kind of give them advice, and sometimes I don't see they follow the advice, and I was like, man, I just told you what to do, what not to do, But what I learned is everyone's different. Hashtag gear differently, because we're all different and we're all made differently, have a different background, different experience. So we will have a unique personal walk with Jesus. So whatever works for me might not be the best fit for you. And then I think especially for me in a leadership position, I need to understand that. I need to give people the opportunity to personalize those advices that they're being obtained from other people. So that's something that God's been teaching me. So it has been great, and it's something I can work on in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Glad to hear it, man.
yeah.
So,
Thanks for sharing, Alec.
so with that, we are gonna get started, and we don't want to take too long today. So, um, so for Humphrey, as Humphrey's background kind of gives, and my background kind of gives, we're talking about Chevys today,
Sir.
and today we are specifically talking about the Tri Five,
Okay, this
and
is supposed to be my part. Can I do the introduction, please? Thank you. So, as Alex said, we're doing Chevy, and so you can look at my background. This is actually a picture that I took, I think back in 2018 summer, and me and Alec were at a Cars and Coffee in Plymouth, and I found this beautiful 1956 Chevy wagon. So the Tri-5 is the Chevy car back in 1955, 56, and 57. And this is the name of the where they get the Tri-5 from. And then fun fact, also not so fun because it was very confusing. Because when Alec told me about this car, I was like, so what is the name of the car? And Alex was like 1955 Chevy. I was like, but the name. And he was like, well, this car is called Bel Air. I was like, okay, so the name is car is Bel Air. But it turned out is not the name of the car, is a variant of the Tri-5, which is very confusing. And tonight we can help you to understand and answer this question for people who are out there that doesn't know the name of the 1950s Chevy. So
alrighty. So, all right, with that, let's get started here. So, as Humphrey was kind of alluding to, the Tri-5, they're based on the same car, but they're all individual models. So
yeah,
there's the Bel Air, which is the most famous. There's the Nomad, which is what Humphrey's picture is of. It's a wagon variant.
yep.
And then there were the 210 and the 150. And those are probably famous for being cop cars or like old fashioned taxi cabs, like New York City taxi cabs.
Yeah. So if you
That's
see any movie, if you have seen any movie, you have seen this car before.
well from the from a while ago.
Yeah, like especially the black and white
uh,
ones.
yeah. So with that, uh, again, Bel Air is the most famous. It also was the most popular. It was kind of the top of the line, so it was very luxurious for the time.
Yeah.
And you could get this in a convertible or hardtop. They had wagon variants too, but those are nomads, really. So I'm
So
gonna kind of not really.
don't get confused because I looked at this car and said, hey, that's a Bel Air, but it's a Nomad.
Yeah, and we'll get to that shortly. So Bel Air was known for its Cadillac inspired looks. So it was essentially looked like a Cadillac, but it was a Chevy and it was cheap. It was a common man's Cadillac.
Yeah, yeah,
And the uh, you can tell the model years apart because each model year is able to be identified by the grill size and the hood rockets. And so for 55, the grill is really small. It doesn't go all the way across the car. It's kind of just stops short, just under the headlights. So that's how you are able to see that. 56, it's a big grill with one hood rocket, and then 57, big grill and two hood rockets.
so the older
So,
the car gets, the more hood rocket it gets.
well, with the engines that they were putting in it, Makes sense.
Yes, sir.
They had the Thriftmaster inline six as the base option, the Blue Flame inline six,
Yeah.
and then they had a Turbo Fire V8 and a Super Turbo Fire V8 that came later
Yeah.
in 1957.
Can we just take a moment to like admire the name for those engines? Was that thrift thrift masters? And what's the second one? A blue flame, and turbo 5. And what's the last one? Super turbo something.
Turbo Fire.
Yeah, like how cool is that? Name your engine is thrift master or turbo 5. That's pretty cool. That's
Mhm.
pretty cool. And all like the first two is inline six, the last two is V8.
Yeah, and those engines are the V8s especially are very, very special because you could get them as the standard carburetor or you could get them fuel injected. And
Which is
for
a big deal.
the mid 50s, that was very, very new, very kind of think of it as kind of like an electric car today, something that wasn't very common, you know.
Yeah.
So
I bet those things doesn't work all the time. This is such an early development.
mhm,
um, but so since we have the picture, the background here, I'm gonna talk about the exterior design because if you really look at this car, I'm gonna get the all the way so you can see the car. Like just take that in. It's such a beautiful car and it have such a interesting color combinations too. So I was watching a YouTube video. So this guy's name is Frank Stephenson, and he's a very very famous car designer. And so he designed the Mini, the first generation of Mini, and he has worked on the for various Ferrari models, the F430, the Enzo FXK, and he worked on the various McLarens, and the P1 being the most famous. I'm telling you that because this guy knows what he's doing. So in one of his video, he talked about like he just admires the car designing language in the early 50s to the late 50s because at that time there's not a lot of regulations to really restrict the design of the car. So it really, and back in the day, fun fact, the car designer doesn't, they're not called the car designers, they actually call the car stylists because they're literally artists, most commonly sculpture artists, and they'll bring in a sculpture artist, literally just make the most beautiful car the possible they can. And so now you have those cars, it literally looks like a rolling sculpture uh, driving down the streets. And
mhm,
yeah, and then Stefan has said that once the regulation for safety has started coming in, and that's why they start taking a lot of very radical design features. So, for example, like the tailpipe, the sharp fins, and those features kind of faded away, become more a rounded body than a boxy. They call this a two box design. So if you look at the first box is the engine part, and the second box is the cabinet in the back. So that's your two box design. Yeah, it's very interesting. And if
mhm.
I would have to time travel, I would love to visit the cars in the 50s. Actually, I don't have to because if I go to Cuba, they still have those very, very old 50s and 60s classic cars. Actually, I do want to
Mhm.
go there someday.
That's cool. Yeah, they're very cool. Another fun fact, uh, 56 Bel Airs specifically had motion sensors that you could get that automatically raised the roof
Wait,
if
what?
it was raining. Yeah.
Motion
So,
sensors in the 50s?
mhm. So it's
Oh,
pretty sweet.
that's pretty
Only
insane.
7%, roughly 7% of Bel Airs had those. So if you know one or that has those, or if you have one that has those, you got a special car, my friend.
Hey, I'm wondering how much additional cost is that putting the motion sensor back in the days? Maybe that's the reason only 7% people have the option.
Probably.
So
So anyway, moving
Cool.
on. Next up is Nomad, and as you can see, what it is essentially just like the Bel Air, but it's a wagon. Uh, it can be a two-door wagon. It can be a four-door wagon. I believe it was more popular as a four-door. And obviously the wagon's the biggest distinguisher for it. It's
Yeah.
its own model, but it was marketed as a Bel Air because the Bel Air was super popular and super successful. So,
See, that's
Chevy's like, slap
confusing.
a Bel Air badge on it.
Yeah, what is Chevy doing? So I blame Chevy for this because they intentionally made it confusing.
But marketing, man, it's
That's
genius if
true.
you're in marketing.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I actually just took a marketing class. I can learn from that.
mhm. So yeah, the Nomad was really cool, and it was kind of like the family car or the workhorse, sort of.
Yeah,
So,
as you guys don't know, I'm a big fan of wagon. And Alex
mhm.
actually just bought it R6 Avant for me, and he should be shipping to me pretty soon. So I love wagons. Like we need to bring back wagons. So
Hmm. Yeah. So then we got the 210 and the 150 now. These guys are kind of like your common cars. So think like Chevy Malibu back in the day.
yeah, yeah,
So the 210 was kind of like a mid-range. It had the same configurations and options as the Bel Air, just wasn't as nice.
yeah.
And they were only hardtops after 1953. So all Tri-5 210s are hardtops. 150s were the base model. They were the economic option. They were just like the the 210, but didn't really have AC. They had a V8 as an option though.
Oh,
They were an extremely popular police car, and most of these are very likely the cabs, like the checker cabs
yeah,
that
yeah.
people think of.
The yellow cab.
Um, mhm. They also were only hardtops. So they didn't have a lot of chrome. But another fun fact for anyone who has seen American Graffiti, Harrison Ford's character drag races a 150. That's his car.
Yeah. So right today is I think 150s are being hot rodded pretty often on the drag strip. Am I right?
A lot of Tri Fives are being hot rodded. It's not just 150s. They're probably the easiest to get, but yeah, they they're very they're a very good platform for drag racing. So you see a lot of gasser combos and just drag racers really, and they usually perform fairly well. So
I'm sure there's like
yeah,
sub 10 seconds easy because you have no idea what what kind of engine will be stuffed in those boxy cars because they got plenty of room to work with.
let's be real, they all just put in LSs. But
Hashtag LS swap the war, baby.
yeah, but all right. And with that, that's all we have on the Chevy Tri-5.
Yeah, so I hope that way, well, mostly Alec can answer you guys the questions. What are those cars? So those cars are called the Tri-5s, and they have 4 different variants. The 150 is intro level, the 210 is the mid-range, and Nomad is what is here, the wagon variant. But they also have marketed as Bel Air, which is confusing part. But the Bel Air is the top of the line. So there you go. There you have it. There's your Tri-5 101.
All right.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I'm glad you guys are joining us. We'll see you next time very soon.
yeah. Thanks, guys. I hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.